My name, David Laster. I am the Director of Software Solutions, a company called Greyvock. We are based in the Northeast region of our country here in the United States, just north of Boston. I live and work from the Grateful Shed here at home, but I'm able to get to the office periodically to support our teams. I oversee our Dynamics GP, our Dynamics Business Central, as well as our Power BI teams. So a little bit of pre-sales, sales stuff. That's not what I started as. I actually started GP sysadmin. That was my thing. I loved it. But we grew. We built a business that supports that, and then the rest of the Dynamics lineup as well. So, CE, F&O, AX, in SL, believe it or not, we have a good number of SL customers too. So, trying to modernize those folks that are on the prem world. That's where I grew up. I'm 50 years, Microsoft is 50 years. Like, I grew up in the on-prem world. So, the people that are operating systems now and the demand that we have for information and stuff is really requiring that we kind of airlift and we modernize these folks. So I get a lot of joy working out of here every day. I started a blog called thedynamicsmindset.com, and it's just where I kind of ramble on periodically about things that help people make the move maybe or gain some understanding from Dynamics GP to Business Central. It's really my sweet spot because I've been doing it my whole life. So
Yep.
I hope that's brief enough for you.
Yeah, absolutely. That was great. And yeah, I know when you mentioned going to all these conferences, you leave with more than you came with, and other people learn from you as well. And that's kind of why we have you on today as well, so we can learn from you. And we're here to talk about GP and licensing and what all that entails. I know there's a lot going on in the GP realm these days with it being sunset, correct? If I'm if I'm understanding everything correctly. So I know there's a lot going on within that. If you kind of want to just give like a brief overview of what that kind of looks like as well, and what's all going on there too. And
Sure
that's kind
thing.
of a big question, but
Actually was kind of thinking about our call today, guys. And, where were you on February 28th, 1993?
1993, I was. I just proposed to my wife, and I was in Virginia, and I was working at Culligan Bottled Water.
Fantastic. I was in high school. So that's when Great Plains started. It is going to make, when it's all said and done here, a little over a 38-year run, as an ERP system supporting, tens of thousands of companies and customers globally. So it's had an amazing run, obviously. So, we are excited, I think, about what the opportunity is with the modernization, of technology here. So in terms of customers, they're pretty well rooted on the GP side, especially with their experience, their expectations, their knowledge, their limitations. And now that Microsoft actually did announce, and I believe, we'll be enforcing that we have to be, forward thinking about it, because there's no switch, there's no magic button that says, all right, I'm migrated to Business Central now. It's not like that, and I mentioned that, in my posts and things, and I teach people that, fundamentally, yeah, there is a button that you can use to migrate to Business Central from the Great Plains. It comes with some strengths and weaknesses. You need to still train people and so forth, but I'm more of a, let's think it through. Let's start with clean data. Let's rethink some processes, because you might have bought a license for 20, but you only need 2. You need to be thoughtful about the reinvigoration of your enterprise system, in my mind. So yes, there are incentives, of course. Microsoft, of course, we do too. We want you to stay in the Microsoft family because it is really strong. You actually gain a whole lot more in terms of platform traversability, and supportability with Power and Power BI, and it's cloud-based. There's so many just neat advantages to it. I put together a session that I'm actually doing at Doug on comparing, so I'm excited about that. And yeah, the timeline, it can be depending on your small firm, big firm, are you manufacturing? There's always a lot of caveats there, but the sweet spot of folks that use GP for GL, AP, AR, bank rec, some invoicing, maybe some purchase orders. It's not a super heavy lift, so it's definitely worth getting educated on, before you move.
The key takeaways, definitely you want to do a fit gap still. It's check where you are. I mean, I imagine there are people out there that have been on this for 38 years. They got it day one, and they're driving it around like the like their old Chevette or whatever. So they're cranking this thing, and so you want to, like you said, you want to reset your process to see where you are. I also want to point out, Savannah, we didn't quite get to you. How old were you in 1993?
I was about -6 at the time,
That's what
so
I thought. In the negative.
yeah.
And like you said, love the traversability of the Microsoft stack. So Copilot as well. So thinking about all these things you can snap in. And were you at Directions, David?
I
Yeah,
had two sessions actually. I got to present for the first time at Directions. It was a
nice.
fantastic
A
experience.
lot of information coming out about BC and how it's being implemented. It really, really accelerating its penetration into the marketplace for ERP.
We're learning about ways that it's not only bridging gaps just between Great Plains and Business Central, because there traditionally were some gaps, and they have been closing them, and there were areas where it always exceeded. But now it's really, I'm grateful that so many people out there are interested in it now because of the finality of Great Plains. They're like, all right, now I need to get serious about it. And as it has gotten to the point since 2018 or so, when it's really started to go, big time, we've got over 45,000, environments out there. So it's closed the gap. But now when I go to show people or train people or try to find an answer to something, it's either there or it's in preview or it's in development.
Yeah,
And or there might be a solution off the shelf, or there's, the ability to tap into the extension layer and build your own solution with some development. So truly exciting. But big enterprises, we need to go through and build a map. There's a systems analysis, there's people, there's places, and there's things involved. And that's actually part of the process. Some folks, that can take some significant time, to map out and maybe phase it. And, what do we want to start with a minimum viable product in terms of how we get there? Because I find that some of the larger firms might experience a higher success rate. You don't want to fail and do an ERP implementation twice. So, think it through.
yeah. We talked a lot about that, Savannah. We've been doing kind of these micro seasons on this podcast, and we just went through things to think about. Implementations and failing is a huge, a big concern, and one that happens more often than it should in our industry, where people just jump in and without a plan and get so far down the road, then they realize, wow, we're way off, and then they either have to roll it back, which they're wasting time and money, or finish it out and try to fix it when they're done. So it's just a lot to think about.
Definitely does, like you said, Bobby, take a lot of time and money, and yeah, we've had many conversations about thinking in depth about your options. And I know that you'd mentioned here when you're migrating off of GP, possibly using BC, but there's other options as well. Like if you're interested in FO, it just is all depending on what your needs are, which goes back to, again, really thinking about what your business needs and how to be successful in that and everything like that. So yeah, lots of things to think about
I
there.
was doing public sector for a while when I was in the partner side with Ellipse, and I saw a number of public sector entities moving from GP to FO. So they were putting RFPs out, coming from Great Plains, and they were looking for Dynamics 365 finance and ops and supply chain management, because they'd done some diligence and found that they had, in the time they had moved far enough out to what their needs were, that they felt they needed that larger software.
Yeah, I know I've received a few RFPs from one of the ISVs who works closely in public sector, and I've seen a few where they're moving from GP and looking to move to FO. So yeah, lots of different options there. Yeah, I guess moving into kind of the licensing conversation, what does licensing look like in GP? Is it similar to BC, FO, or is there some differences there? Or yeah, just what does that look like in that world?
In the Dynamics GP world,
Yeah.
interesting point that we're actually recording this, doing this right now. We are in this weird time-space continuum in the licensing world. Yeah, early April. So literally April 1st of 2025, you can no longer buy on-premise perpetual licenses. Brand new, net new customers for Great Plains. Now, if you're an existing customer, you can of course buy new licenses.
Hmm.
That's great. Okay. Can you still buy Great Plains? Yes, you can still buy Great Plains for one more year. But when you buy it, it's under a subscription model instead.
Interesting.
Now, the exact price, I don't know. It's fairly, fairly new news-ish to me because I don't literally leave on the price side. I live on the product side.
Yeah.
But when I'm going to do licenses, we literally had somebody email us this week, info@greybuck.com. I'd like to buy Great Plains. And so it kind of got us going, and we're like, wow, we're in that weird space and time. Okay, so if you were thinking about buying GP, you still can, which is great because you can still get support for it. You can still have the product, which is excellent. And then if you're like an exec director or something, and you're CFO, and you know GP and you need it for 5 or 10 years,
Right.
go with it. Like, it's not a bad solution, okay? Because it will continue to live and work for you as long as it's on supported hardware and software. Okay, and if you don't need the internet, tremendously, then you can probably get by with it. But that's not the world we live in these days. So, just a couple of things on that in that weird space and time. So there's one more year left to buy GP. And then if we meet again at some point in time, we can discuss that, okay, GP is not dead yet, but it is, you really can't buy it anymore. So that's all.
Right.
But, 38 years ain't a bad run.
It's a good point because I was, something that, you wonder. I worked for a company, an end user that was using Dynamics AX, and they had just decided they weren't interested in upgrading to the cloud. It's the reason I ended up leaving because I wanted to progress, past that. And so I'm sure that folks like this for GP, they're going to just there's that space to continue using it where it's still supported. You said the adjacent support, hardware, software, like the server side stuff, if you're doing it on-prem, is still supported. But at a point, that's going to run out too, where you have to replace hardware, and then it's no longer supported on the new hardware, and the new software, server softwares and stuff that play into the actual GP software. It's very complicated once it gets down that road. But that's a long time. Right now it's 2030, right? That's the current end date for GP, if that, at least the last I saw. But that is to be determined once it gets closer to that date.
Like buying a 50,000-mile tire, you can get the 85 or but it's not quite gonna get you maybe as far as you want to run with it. So
yeah,
that's maybe okay. Maybe that's your strategy. Maybe that's what you need it for. You only need a piece of it that it does really well. Solid product, and there's a lot of people that know it and then will support it.
Yeah,
for a long time. But you got to buy it soon if you're really going to go net new.
That's a good note.
That year time frame, yeah. Hopefully we get the word out in case anyone is like, oh, we really want this. That way they're on track there. But cool. Are there any tips that you would give for anyone planning to stay on GP, or any tips or any pieces of advice to say, oh, maybe you should migrate, or just anything within that realm?
Ask your partner first. Right? Sometimes your partner will be able to give you, ideally your partner's going to give you the right advice. Okay. And if they don't, or you can't find out your partner, find one. I can't advise any other way around that. But plenty of people out there that have moved into Business Central and that know Business Central. So, they can assess what you have, and that you need to do it first. You need to know what you have. That's number one. And then maybe get a flavor, get a sense of what the product is, for you and what it might do for your organization. You got to get some buy-in, from people, because key people need to play key roles in the transition process because everything is interconnected. And when you move somebody's cheese, that makes it really hard for people to do their jobs, to have satisfaction, to put food on the table. In my mind, I blog on this on the dynamicsmindset.com because my philosophy is different than other people in some regards. I think it's an opportunity for a clean, fresh start. From my lens, my prism, I see so many companies in Dynamics GP land that are ready to go, but they don't know where to start. And I say, start with your data. Start with looking at your vendor, your master records. Start to think about, do I like my chart of accounts? Or I wish my chart of accounts did this or that, or I don't need these 4 companies anymore. Start to take a little survey of how many companies you have, how many users you have or need, what modules you use, and then the master records in those modules. Like do a little housekeeping, spring cleaning, flag them as inactive, or maybe have a little task force that says, we need to move in 3 years. Let's tackle how we deal with customer integrations and naming conventions. Think about where the hard spots are and get the conversations going. Cleaning up the data, talk to your partner, of course. Lay out a map of what integrations that might come and go and what tools and products and triggers that are firing those so that you have a 360 degree of everything that's going into the system. And then you also have to, flip the arrows around and, okay, who's asking for what reports? Are we sending data to data warehouses? Are we, are we instigating an automatic email every Monday at 9 a.m. to the salespeople? Like, you need to go a little bit deeper than just the data usage table quantities and stuff. You need to know what you have so that you can think about what's necessary, prioritize. And then I think it's great to understand the licensing. It's really important because you've already invested in GP. So if and while are available to preserve some of that investment and familiarity and stay on the Microsoft platform, then you'll get essentially preferential license, conversion rates, right? That's all I can really essentially say because it's going to evolve over time. It already has,
Yeah.
I think one of the current things is like a 40% something, and then, so the numbers are real. But there are stipulations, and sometimes if you have 25 here and you need 2 moving forward, you do the math. Okay, so you have options. Talk to your partner, assess what you have, and then be realistic about timeline and teammates. Who's on the team and going to pull it off because they're going to Sherpa it. They're going to carry the load. They're going to make sure that you arrive. And if you picked the wrong guide, caddy, whatever it is, you stand a lesser chance of achieving it. And I see that in terms of failed implementations versus successful ones. You all have to give and push a little bit, and sometimes the goalpost moves a little bit, but you still get to camp if you have the right people. So, hope that helps.
Yep. I think a good point there is the talking to your partner if you have one, and not just one time, and then it's like staying in touch because what's going to happen. Say, a partner, they're supporting GP, but now they're shifting to more BC because they know they're seeing the future. They're protecting their business. These GP resources are going to get slimmer. And I saw this happen with AX as well, likely happen with NAV. It happens along these lines that the resources that they're putting towards understanding and staying in touch with the current nature or even the historical nature of what GP can do is going to get slimmer. So I think staying in touch with your partner on an annual basis for support and understanding where they are is like, hey, how's it looking? You guys still keeping people, on board that know GP, so if I've got issues, you can take care of them. To your point, David, if you don't have a partner, maybe you started 38 years ago and you've been doing this on your own for the last whatever, find a partner, get in now, get somebody that you can know and trust when it does come time, because it is going to get, I feel like there'll be a thrush towards the end, and that means you could miss out. You could really hinder yourself if you wait to the very last minute and everybody's rushing to get projects done, in 2029 or whatever, and then all of a sudden you're stacked and you can't do what you want to do from an organizational standpoint.
Or a dependency is stacked. Maybe you need to use, a vendor, and the vendor and their ISV solution, there's a supply chain effect to the
100%
ERP project.
Yeah.
And we all try really hard. And there are other places to go. There's Learn, right? There's really good blog posts if you're a technical type person. There's conferences where you can go get like a buffet of information of varying natures, beginner, intermediate, as well as advanced. You can meet with vendors, there's so many things that you can ingest if you position yourself in the right spot. And it moves quickly, but when you're ready to dip your toe in the water and do it, a whole multitude of places to go before you even have to jump. Again, GP is going to keep on ticking for quite some time, but I guess I would leave you with, if you're really considering it, stay up to date on GP. Do the latest year-end service pack. We're on 18 right now. we worked really hard to make sure that our customers were on and we had a cadence. We need you in an afternoon. We need to do the update. Boom. So we decomplicated it before we have to make them go or they're ready to go in many ways. So we do that. We start in October as soon as the new features come out. We also give it a little bit of an excitement too. It's like, that thing you've been worried about? Well, guess what? There's a new feature, believe it or not. And it's happened the last couple of years, and it's really helped people. So there will be a point in time when you just leave the GP data, pretty much in a working state, but make sure it's as up to date as you can possibly make it. Because you don't really know how long it's really going to take to get to Business Central, especially if you are complex.
Yeah.
You be current and then buy yourself 4 years or 3 years. It depends.
Yeah, for sure. Those are some great pieces of advice, David. Thank you for leaving us with that. I feel like you touched on the majority of the questions I had for today. Bobby, is there anything else that you would like to touch on while we have David's brain to pick here or anything like that?
I did. I just wondering, just for my own edification, how long does it take to implement a GP? For somebody like if you were going basic, I know F&O is pretty complicated. BC is less so. Again, depending on the organization, of course. But is GP also is it equal to BC in implementation time and effort, or is it less, more?
It's a great question, actually, Bobby. Looking backwards now, knowing what you can do from an implementation rollout standpoint with Business Central,
Mm-hmm.
it's just so much more modern.
Mm.
And we sometimes take that for granted, right? We take for granted sometimes how modern really creeps in.
Yeah.
And having been on that GP to BC journey now for 8 or so years, it's crept in to me. And wow, the tools were a lot harder to use, to understand, to get the file types just right. Now we have a wizard that says, "Oh, I see. This is your date column and your currency column." It's like it little things like that really do go a long way. They help it sell the product. They help people use the features and gain the benefits. And
Yeah.
then, right. So that's what it's about. But you do need to know how to get people there and what they didn't have before, how they learn about that and put it to use in daily life.
Yeah, fair enough. That makes sense. I mean, I didn't think of it in that way, but yes, having those future forward tools makes it easier some way. Even though the software might be more robust, it doesn't necessarily translate to a longer implementation time because you've got these great tools that modernize your implementation effort.
Hmm.
I think we have to also end by saying 38 years. You said that a number of times. That's pretty wild. I'm tying it back into the Grateful Shed. What a long, strange trip that's been for folks on GP. If you don't know, just Google that lyric. You'll find it. Grateful Dead song.
There you go.
Maybe Savannah can find a little snippet. She can layer some like groovy flowers over David's background when she puts this together.
Oh, yeah. We'll dance.
I'll produce a playlist. The dynamics.
Yeah, there you go.
Dynamics
A companion playlist for if you're implementing, GP to BC. Here's your companion Grateful Dead playlist to keep you going through the hard times.
I can't tell you, Bobby, how many times before a conference I've worked on trying to make the steely, face with like a Business Central logo.
Oh yeah,
So I'm really looking to try to do that and wear like that cool T-shirt.
I love it. Yeah,
Figure out the right.
that's the classic Grateful Dead logo. If you've seen it, Savannah, it's like this. It's like a skull and a circle, and inside the circle, like the typical, is got like a lightning kind of bolt thing going on. So, but then everybody co-ops it. Like the first one I think I saw was a Volkswagen one for some reason years ago. There was a Volkswagen emblem inside the steal your face logo, and then after that, yeah, it's like it became a thing. If you could figure out a way to, like football teams do it, hockey, everybody does it. Steal your face logo.
Yeah, great stuff. Instead, though, I have a dynamic or had the Dynamics mindset stickers. So I'll see you at Dynamics Con. I'm gonna hand out stickers. They're fun.
We'll be trading stickers for sure.
Shine Daydream for your day in both of them.
Yeah, I wonder if Ellipse is going to have. Are you re-upping your sticker game this year, Savannah, for Dynamics Con, or what's happening?
We are bringing stickers, but they're going to be like the same ones we we've brought in the past. We haven't brainstormed any new ideas, but I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? So,
They're good ones. They're definitely solid, no doubt about it. Solid run of stickers right outside of pandemic. So like you're on mute was a great one. People still love that one because it's still a thing. Like, I mean,
yeah.
it's every meeting. So yes, awesome. Yeah, we'll
You
do
know,
some sticker trading.
video.
I love it. Yeah, we just wanted a blank screen. You should do that one like a blank screen. Like, yeah, you're not on video.
Right. Awesome.
Too funny. Cool. I just looked up the Grateful Dead logo, and then I think I cut out for a little bit. Maybe my internet running was too much going on, but
Yes,
I know what you're
way too
talking
deep
about
on the
now.
Grateful Dead. Research kills your internet.
Yeah, exactly. So, too funny.
And before we pop off, also, and David, this won't be as impactful for you, but I do have to ask Savannah, what happened to the mattress?
I
For
sold
for
it
like the last
finally.
4 podcasts, she's had a mattress propped up behind her, and I'm just wondering where it's gone now.
Yeah, David, I had that. We were getting rid of this mattress, and I don't know why this is. Well, my husband put it here, and then I just didn't care to move it. And so, in the past like 3 or 4 podcast episodes, it's been there, like Bobby said. But I finally sold it on Facebook Marketplace. Someone finally picked it up.
Awesome.
So,
I'm gonna
$55 in
CG
my
it back.
pocket.
I'm gonna CG it back in for you when I send you this video. It's gonna be there. So
Exactly. It always needs to be there. It's a part of the buddies now.
yeah, exactly. It's like, where's our mattress?
Yeah.
Well, may it rest in peace,
Oh
like Great
gosh,
Plains.
too funny.
Cool. Man, I'm looking forward to seeing you, Chicago. We're in the midst of the final bits of preparation, so it's getting down to the nitty gritties for us here, putting together all the little pieces to get everybody together and going. So I'm excited to see you there. I'm excited to see Savannah there. It'll be her first Dynamics Con. So yeah,
Cool. I have 2 presentations that I'm doing, and then I also have 2 panels that I'm on. So
awesome.
busy bunny while we're there, but it's always a great time. They do such a
Yep.
fantastic job, and I can't wait to see some of my customers there this year as well.
Yeah, it's shaping up to be a good one. Great facility, and hopefully weather. But we'll be inside. Who cares? What the weather's like. We'll have the entire run of the hotel. So we're excited.
I can't. Somebody's gonna bring me pizza. I was challenged.
We're gonna have hot dogs, pizza, Italian beef sandwiches rolling in left and right. Yeah, it's like Uber Eats and DoorDash will be just like going through the rotating door, just like like a cartoon, just handing people sandwiches and pizza and hot dogs.
I hope that conference never ends.
Sorry, guys. I keep cutting out, so it's kind of kind of hard for me.
I
But
know we were rolling with it. We were rolling with it, but I'm sure you'll find a space for you. You can just do your own videos and cut yourself in,
right,
all
I'll just
merry.
pop myself across the screen. It'll be fine.
There
But
you go. I love it.
oh, gosh,
Cool.
yeah.
Well, appreciate being here with both of y'all today.
Sounds
Guys, so
good.
much.
You guys are fun. Have safe travels, and I can't wait to listen to the podcast.
Yeah, you too. Take care.